Uh, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Muzzle podcast. I'm your host, Nikia Monet. Thank you for joining me. I was this close to not even going live tonight. I ain't even going front. I had told my friend earlier today. I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna go live tonight. I'm not gonna do a pre-recorded show. I'm gonna go live, whatever." Then, as my day progressed and everything, and I was busy, and I was like, "You know what? No, I ain't gonna do it today." But then, of course, something had to happen and then spark me to say, you know what? Going live on the muzzles up because the muzzle has to come off. And let me say this. I am going to preface this and say I am really going to put forth my best effort not to cuss. I am going to try my hardest not to utter one cuss word. And I'm telling y'all, I am literally going to try my hardest. But you ever notice how there's some things that literally just make you want to cuss? And it's stuff like this that really boils my entire insides up, and it just makes me want to cuss because I don't exactly understand at what point in time are we going to do better, get better, act better, know better, all the betters in the world, so that stuff like this will stop happening. And I'm not exactly sure at what point we're going to be there, because it is very clear to me that for some, and let me say this, and I'm saying this as honestly and as plainly I can say, the church has really effed up. And part of the reason why the church has really effed up is because it has failed to protect the people. Okay. And part of the reason why, and I'm saying this as boldly as I can, is because what happens is that when these things happen, 9 times out of 10, what the church world wants is for you to be quiet. What the church world wants is for you not to say nothing. What the church world wants is for you to just act like it never freaking happened to you, and for you to sit there as if you are the problem, and that these so-called men and women of God are just the most innocent people in the whole wide world, and the only person that could judge them is God and someone that is their exact counter or exact peer. And I'm here to tell y'all that is some of the most nonsense that we have ever been taught in the church, that we can't hold these imbeciles, these predators accountable because of their position and their so-called rank in the church world. That is a lie. It has always been a lie. It will forever be a lie, because at the end of the day, they are accountable to those in which they supposedly have been entrusted to. Now, I ain't gonna hold y'all. I have a very big problem with a lot of this stuff that goes on, because at the end of the day, I can't imagine for the life of me that a loving God, the God that we have that so loved the world that he gave his one and only son, that whosoever shall believe in him shall not perish but have everlasting life, would ever have someone acting in a leadership position over a person that they are going to prey on. And this is the problem that I have with the church as a whole, because it's like we say things, we do things, we attempt to teach things, but we don't follow that crap all the way through. And it's enough of that already. Because why in the world am I having to scroll my timeline and get tagged in a post because a so-called prophet asked a woman to send him naked pictures of herself so that he can cover her whole body? Now, I'm really trying to understand all of this here. I'm really trying to understand. And the reason why I'm really trying to understand, because guess what? Some of y'all so-called leaders in this church world should be speaking out more. But everybody, y'all want to hold true to that little scripture, touch not mine anointed and do my prophet no harm. I am sorry, that does not apply to these predators. That does not mean that a person cannot stand in the truth of what someone has done to them and call that crap what it is. that does not mean that you don't have the right or the authority to call it out for what it is. That's not what that means. And a lot of the times what's happening is that we're standing in a position as if we are afraid to call things what it is. There's no way that a young woman should go to anyone for prayer and be prayed upon and ask for naked pictures. And then under the premise and under the guise of a spiritual bath. Not in the Christian church. Hold on. Hey, Mel.
What's going on, Kia?
You know, I'm just tired of these people. Okay. I'm sick and I'm tired of it because I'm not understanding. Okay. Now, dude can definitely remove himself from being tagged in the post, but he ain't got nothing to say. I have a problem with that as well because I for sure tagged little prophet Leandre Wright in this post, and he sure enough removed that tag. Okay. But in reading, because, you know, I went back to the original post and I had to read through her comments and everything and what was going on in there. And I'm like, at the end of the day, people, you know, I find that sometimes we can be some of the deafest, dumbest, and blindest people in the world to really sit up there and then attempt to blame her, talking about why would you send your sister to him? Here's the backdrop of the story, okay? The lady's name is Marisol Santiago, okay? She received the word from this man, Leandre Wright, at one point in time, told her sister about the word in which she received from the man and said it was an accurate word, right?
Okay.
The sister feeling as if she needed prayer, whatever the case may be, because her sister told her she received the word from this man. Sis reached out to the man, I need prayer.
Okay.
Man then basically tells her in all of this great commentary of crap, okay? My spirit told me, my spirit, we got to pay attention to words here because you know what? I think there's going to be a teacher night so that everybody could really start learning wordplay when people are false. My spirit told me to have you send your full body so I can really cover your full body by doing a spiritual bath on you. What does a picture have to do with a spiritual bath? Now, and let me say this, and this is where we have to be taught properly, right? Because how some of these Christians in these types of churches, because I want to say he's African or something like that. What they do is they utilize things that come from their culture and try to make it of God and try and call it God when really and truly it's a cultural practice that in the typical standard world, you probably will call that witchcraft. Okay. Now, few years back, I happened to meet a witch. He acknowledged himself as a witch, right? Okay. And one of the things that he said that they do when people were leaving Christianity to come over to whatever it is that they practice, what he said was they would have to give them a spiritual bath and they would have to be cleansed for 3 days. And that cleansing would consist of a complete scrubbing off of their skin. I said, well, what the hell type of skin? What type of scrubbing y'all doing? What you using? Like, what are you using? And they were literally, whatever it was something that was harsh because they needed to wash away whatever it was that they were practicing before they decided to go into this practice of Wicca or witchcraft, as we call it, right? So my whole thing is, as Christians, there is no reason on this earth that we should believe that we need a spiritual bath when at the end of the day, we know that we are cleansed through what? His blood. There has to be a complete debunking of some of this teaching that goes on in some of these cultural churches that want to sit up here and act as if they are acting of God and they're really not.
Well, you know, what we really have to come to grips with is that all of it is cultural. Even what we do is cultural. All of it. Every bit of it.
None of that shit.
You know, and when we speak of spiritual baths, you know, the church has its own version of the spiritual bath. It's called baptism.
That looks different.
You know, it's the same thing. They do everything that we think is set aside into a church spectrum is stuff that we've gotten from other religions. The whole entire basis of Christianity is is a mixture of all religions. That's why it was called Catholic. And you know all of this. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't have a problem with Cat talking about no spiritual bath, but the spiritual bath, she's supposed to get in the bathtub herself and do what she needs to do. You don't need no picture. What you need a picture for? It sounds like you want to give her a different type of water, brother. You know what I'm saying? It sounds like you want to be the fountain for her little bath. And so it's like, yo, at the end of the day, you know, like we have to also realize there will always be wolves amongst the sheep. Always. You know what I'm saying? And then the greatest part of that is it ain't even the wolf you have to worry about. Because when the scripture really begins to speak, it speaks about woe unto you shepherds
Yeah.
who scatter the flock, not the wolves. So, we know that these things are here. So it's our job to really get people to understand. Stop being so gullible. Stop being so, even if you've been saved for 10 seconds, you know, don't nobody need no naked picture. If I ain't seen the naked pictures out to people that I'm talking to, I'm sure I ain't sending no naked picture to somebody who's supposed to be praying for me.
And here's the thing, because she didn't send him any pictures of herself, right? Like she didn't
Good,
send him any pictures of herself, because that's the whole thing. She didn't send him any pictures. She was
good.
just saying, like, okay, um, okay, yeah, I just want all this, or what did she say? I just want to remove all negative binds, and I'm feeling guilty. Yes, deep
hmm
cleaning is what I'm in need. And then
hmm
he's telling her, well, the picture would have to be all skin, no garments. She's like, oh, like naked? Like you
hmm
taking a real bath. Oh, okay. But only if you trust me. Sir, what type of manipulative crap you got going on here?
He's doing. Let me tell you something. He's doing what people who are charlatans, what people who are scammers, what people who are deviant and perverted do. And those people, they are here in the earth. They
Yeah,
are
they
here
here
in
in
the.
the earth.
They're
Dude
here in the
commented,
church.
dude commented on my post and said this same dude did the same thing to his wife before he married his wife. Same type scenario. Someone else just came in my inbox and said, yeah, it's true, because he did it to someone I know. Like this is a no, and this is the problem that I have, because at the end of the day, right? Somehow, some way, these charlatans keep increasing while you have the actual real pastors, real prophets that keep decreasing. And I don't understand where this balance is really and truly coming from, because why is it that a lot of the times we're so attracted to these charlatans? Because they make things sound good to your ear, but it's not even good for your spirit. And I don't, and that's why I say I feel like at the end of the day, part of this issue has a lot to do with the church as a whole, because we've gotten so far away from accountability and we've gotten so far away from responsibility. There is a responsibility that as a pastor, prophet, teacher, evangelist, whatever it is that you want to call yourself, apostle, whatever that is that you want to call yourself, that you have a responsibility, not just to the people, but unto God. And somehow, some way, this is like being lost in the sauce of this world mechanism that these folks are living under, to where crap like this can consistently go on in the church, and it goes on without anything actually happening. And I think part of the problem is because at the end of the day, the church is one of the most unregulated institutions that we got. Because folks just popping up out of everywhere. Next thing you know, you're a prophet, you're a pastor, you got a church, you got this, and they doing all types of hellish stuff inside of these buildings that they're calling churches, when it's really and truly just a way for them to make money.
It that is true. You know, I'm not. For me, it doesn't even trigger an emotional response anymore because number one, when I truly think about it, if the church is to be regulated, it will be regulated by a corrupt government, which is already which has already has its fingerprints all over the church. I believe that right now in this
The
day and
Catholic
age,
Church.
not just the Catholic Church, all churches in this day and age, church is one big psyop. It's one big psychological operation because it's very few churches that are operating on the original plan, on the original blueprint that the scripture gives. Very few. Most of these leaders do not study. Most of these leaders are not pastors after God's heart. Most of these people are in it because they see how lucrative it could be if you're very successful. Some of it are in it just because it's status, So none of these things surprise me. And the thing is, again, at this point in time, the church, there can be no accountability for the simple fact, number one, when people did try. I remember just maybe 2 3 years ago. Remember when Larry Reed and Bishop Jordan got together. Not Bishop Jordan had started the thing for the prophets, the School of the Prophets,
Mm-hmm.
and it was to make sure that there would be some type of governing body that would control the the scammers and control keep a it's to keep it in line. So if we see you scamming, we're gonna call you out. If we see you doing wrong, we're gonna call you out. But then when they did that, everybody like, who are you? Who are you to say this? And this was a lot of people in the church. So they the church itself makes it almost impossible to be self-governed. And you can't trust nobody outside of the church to govern it. At the end of the day, the whole system, we are living in a time where this system of church has come to an end. It has reached its end. And when you keep on messing with things that are expired, you keep intaking it, you keep ingesting it, and it's expired, you end up getting sick. The church has produced a lot of sick people because we are not changing the system. The system, this is not, this, what the church is today, what the organized church is today, is literally a production.
It is a production. It's a
It is a
production.
production.
A production of lights, pomp, and circumstance, a whole bunch of damn singing, and ain't no real saving. And I'm sick of it. I'm sick of what's going on in the church today. And I said for 2023, I said, I'm leaving the black church and its foolishness alone. I said, I'm done with y'all. I ain't talking about y'all because at the end of the day, y'all don't want correction. Y'all don't want change. Y'all like the same old crap that y'all go through because
They
it
like to
just,
complain.
but you just like that and you don't want to do anything
Yeah,
else about it, right? But when
yeah.
I see something like this on my timeline today, I'm like, at the end of the day, somebody has to continue to speak about this crap because it's
Yeah.
pure crap.
I I tell you, for years there's always been someone speaking out in against this stuff. There's no question. My question is a lot. I've changed my philosophy on how I do it now. I don't have to speak out on your nonsense. The nonsense you're doing, it's going to catch up with you. What I have to do now is lead people to a place that I know has integrity, outsource them to a place that I know really will take care of people, really will have the best interest of the people at heart. My job now is to find those places because we all know that the church is raggedy right now. We all know that. We all know that. But now I think it's our jobs to point people in the directions of those places that have not compromised, of those places that have not fallen into this reckless trap. And when we do that, I think we do a much more better job because now people have some place to go instead of just hearing, about all the bad ones. Because if we keep giving light and a seat and this is what they, unfortunately, one thing about controversy, all it really does is give attention to people who do not need it.
I think it does two things. And I think part of the issue is that when it gives attention to the people who absolutely do not need it, but it also brings exposure for those who should not be connected to it. So I don't feel that no one should continue to not expose what's happening because you don't know. I never knew who this dude was. I didn't know who this guy was ever. I've never seen him before, never knew who he was until I happened to look at it today because I got tagged in a whole post. And I don't feel that there's any, like, I know a lot of y'all, and there's some of y'all who watch this, y'all feel like, oh, that's just that one person. It's not the whole church. And we understand all of that crap. I really do. But it gets tiring to keep hearing that over and over again. And you keep hearing people getting victimized over and over again. So at what point will we begin to understand and address the real issue that is happening in these buildings that are calling themselves churches that are literally victimizing people, innocent people? Because at the end of the day, this young woman, she was not raised. She wasn't going to church, according to her sister. She's like what y'all love to call a babe in Christ or whatever, and she just went to a man for prayer.
Listen, when you hear this, the first thing that I'm gonna do is, Miss, you need to go make a police report. That's number one.
Because that's what I would do.
Number two, I think if we had some type of catalog, it's almost like if we had some type of database that showed who these people were and say, listen, guys, this is the website you can go to where you can see that these are sex offenders as pastors. These are people who have been caught up in really horrendous sexual scandals. Beware of them, because the Bible does say, mark those that cause division. So, and when we do it like that, I'll direct you to that website, but I'm also going to make sure that you have a very clear understanding that we are not all like that. And there are places you can go. I'm going to direct you to a place. I'm going to send you to a place. And then I also would admonish people, before you start actually going and attending these churches and trusting these pastors, look at their virtual services for a while. Listen to what they're saying. See what they're doing with the people. Look for the telltale signs, because there are always telltale signs. You know what I'm saying? So you got to look for these signs. It's like being in a family, and you got to look out for, hey, we heard Uncle Joe do this. Let's keep an eye on him. You know what I'm saying? And be aware. We have to. The level of awareness in the Christian church is so low that they are so easily fooled because they are so unaware. It's like, at some point, I think the greater awareness needs to be brought to those who really are doing the work from a pure place, because there's always going to be somebody that's out there trying to use and abuse what this is, always. And if we spend all of our energy checking for them instead of pointing people in the right places, in the right, like I said, yes, definitely mark them, but I believe most of our energy should be put to showing people, listen, we have 500 churches. Let's get a database again. We in a digital age. Get a database that shows these are churches that we believe that you can trust. These are churches that we believe you can't trust.
Well,
Put them
then
out there.
I think the request is going to be, then we need two databases. One for the predators, the other one
Yep.
for the good churches.
Yeah.
I have yet to stumble upon a good church. That's just my own personal opinion. I don't care who doesn't agree with it, but that's just my own personal opinion. I do believe that, and at the end of the day, for people that have been preyed upon inside of the church, they need help and they need resources, because at the end of the day, I'm not just sitting here pointing people to go to another church. I'm going to point you to a place where you can actually get healed from the damage that the one place just caused you, because that's emotional distress that you place a person under. That is actually a traumatic experience, to have some man sit up there and request your naked pictures for some freaking virtual cleansing. Like, it's
that guy,
ridiculous.
but
That's
he
ridiculous.
what we're not really dealing with a pastor. We're dealing with a sexual predator.
That's what he is, and that's why he
And
belongs in jail, requesting this stuff of women
my thing is,
and allegedly men.
sexual predators, they have the uncanny ability to morph into anyone and anything in society.
They seem to be a lot morphing into pastors and prophets in the church. And that's another thing. I don't know what the hell is going on with this vetting process of the church, because at the end of the day, anytime when you go on a job, you have to succumb to a background check. And I'm not exactly sure what is happening with these people and their background checks, or who they actually are supposed to report into when things like this happen.
I, you know, I'm not going to say most, because at the end of the day, as discouraged as I am with where the church is, I don't believe that it's most. I think that because we have these platforms of bloggers and bloggers and people who are ready just to, like, they're going to give bloggers and bloggers look for very salacious stuff. If it's salacious enough, it's gonna bring a story, and we're gonna do it. Let's rock it. So they're gonna look for that, and they'll always present that to us without presenting. And there is not a balanced view of the church coming across our platforms
Whose fault is that?
And all I'm saying is, most churches I know don't have bloggers and vloggers. And what I'm saying is that bloggers and vloggers, I agree 100% of marking the bad ones, but we have to do a better job in also marking the good ones.
Well, then, no, the good ones need to do a better job at marking themselves as good ones.
They
because
do.
If the bad ones are out here and they're the ones that's getting all the so-called bloggers' attention, it's because that's what they see.
How does a church? The only reason why these other guys have the attention they have is because a vlogger or a blogger puts them out there.
This one wasn't even put out by a vlogger or a blogger. It was put out by a family member.
But it was given to you, and you are a vlogger, and boom, here it is, to a bigger audience. So what I'm saying is, no church really has. People know from church watching their virtual lives or watching them on YouTube or actually going there. There aren't many people. I don't know any church where the church can market itself as being this great thing, or we're really the good ones, because then we're trained to believe if you have to tell us you're a good one, then you're really a bad one. We're trained to believe that way. If you have to tell me you're a prophet, then you're not a prophet. If you have to tell me that, it's such a complicated issue that we're in today. And what I'm saying is that there's a whole lot of nonsense going on in church, but there's a whole lot of nonsense going on right now. This whole entire system of everything is just about totally corrupted. And now this is the time where we have to have that relationship with the God that lives in us, so that God can lead us and guide us into all truth. Because if we don't have that working relationship within ourselves, it's this is just what it's going to be. We have to have that. We have to have a little common sense and say, yo, the cats in the street can spot a nigga who's a op a million miles away. It shouldn't be no different. I can tell if you are op, whether you in the street or if you in the church. I can tell because you have the same characteristics. The characteristics do not change. Unfortunately, we're living in a world and we're living in a system right now that has infiltrated every area of life. And now we're living in the days where we have to have that personal relationship with God. Because yes, again, woe be unto the pastors that destroy and scatter the sheep. You know, Jeremiah knew what he was talking about when he said that. He knew. And it's just not
because
pastors
they ran into exile because of what the pastors were doing.
There's no question, but it's not
And it's
just
the same, and it's
pastors.
the same thing that's happening today. And
But
it
it's
has
not just
people
pastors.
running into
It's
exile.
politicians.
But we
It's
ain't talking about
pastors.
politicians
It's
right
hear
now.
what I'm saying to you. Everything has been infiltrated. It's everywhere now. That's what I'm trying to say. It's we are in such a bad state of corruption in the world today. Everything is, whether it's teachers, pastors, politicians, actors, lawyers, judges, cops, everywhere. There's nowhere you look that is left untouched by this. Nowhere. So now it becomes, we have to see how much bigger this is than just church. This is, we are literally living. We we talk about living in the bad day, living in the last days. We are literally there now. Literally. We're so far into it that these cats just called a meeting of all the major world religious leaders a few weeks ago, maybe up to 2 months ago. And each and every last one of them all agreed to go to Mount Sinai and write out a new 10 Commandments. Then we have the World Economic Forum and the World Health Order and all of it. We're under attack. People, whether you're in church or not, people are under attack everywhere. And that sexual deviant thing is in everything. In everything. You have books being read in school talking about transgender sex, homosexual sex to 10-year-olds. There is something that's going on where they're trying to really bring this pedophilia into a normal status. And that's more than just church. That's everywhere. It's happening right before our eyes. People are literally being snuffed out and murdered so they won't be able to talk about what's happening out here. So I don't expect the church to be left out of that. No, the Bible talks about a great falling away. It talks about, we are here. We are here now. What are we going to do? Because we're surrounded by this stuff. It's Disney had a whole underground huge bunkers of children who were being kidnapped and raped and molested and cloned and all this other nonsense. Everything is, we are in a very bad way. The whole world. And that goes to say that this whole system, this whole All of it, this whole little matrix we're in, it's coming to an end. It's coming to an end. And if we don't get serious and really begin to pay attention to what's happening around us, how it's happening, how people are doing it, yo, these child sex rings are right in our faces, and we don't even see it because we're not aware of how they operate, of what they do, how they move, right in our faces. You taking your kid to school, and there's a kid right next to your kid who's being mentally and physically and sexually abused every day. But we talk about mantles, we talk about all this unnecessary nonsense. We talk about how the church and the church. If the church don't realize that it's bigger than the church right now, the church is foolish. It's so much bigger, and it's anytime it gets this bad, you have to know that there is a huge catastrophic something coming that's going to wipe all of this clean. Mark my words. And it's coming sooner than people think. The system has totally, we have been infiltrated in every area of life, every single area. And I know it sounds hopeless, but it's not hopeless. You just have to know now, because we're at the end game, that means that there's something else to go to now. Once this ends, there's something else to go to now. Something that is pure, something that is righteous, something that is on par with goodness. So it was the scriptures told us it would get this way. It told us it's in the last days. But also the scripture told us that in the last days also, I'm going to pour out my spirit on all flesh. So now we need to start looking out for where the spirit is pouring out at. Because we all know now we surrounded. We surrounded. Where's the spirit at pouring his spirit out? Lord, where are you pouring your spirit out? Who should I go to? Who are the people that I know are trusted voices that I know will not molest or harm or have any deviance in them? Where are they at? Because Lord, I'm surrounded.
But I think that's the major question. The question is, where are they? In what region? In what location? Where are they? Because it always, see, my whole thing is, it's good to come down on bloggers and vloggers and whatever the case may be for speaking about what is happening, good, bad, or indifferent. But at the same time, these so-called good churches, where are you?
They're there.
Where?
And like I said, I can name plenty off the top of my head right now. If you want me to give the names, I will.
You should.
All right. Well, I'll tell you right now. If we're talking about good churches, I would say you can trust New Zion Temple. I would say that you can trust what's Bishop Hudson's church name? William Hudson's church. I forgot the name of his church. And not because they pilgrim, but because I've marked them, I've watched them, I've looked, I've seen. But Bishop William Hudson, you can also say, I know I'm a good pastor, so I'll throw my church in there. But it's a very small church. It's a very beginning church. We in our beginning stages. But yeah, the Great Exchange is a great place to be. I would say that Pastor Leonard Corley, not Leonard Corley. What's Leonard's name? See, now I'm missing church names, but I know the pastors. But you know what I'll do? I'll write a list out, and I'll begin to put those churches out on my Facebook. And maybe I'll share the list with you, and you can put it out if you desire. But I think that's a big thing, to point out the places where people are safe from from the molestation of the world, not just sexual, but emotionally and just even mentally. And there's just this world is so crazy right now.
The thing,
It's
here's the thing, this is where I have an issue with, right? Like, I get it. You know what I'm saying? I get that the world is crazy. But one of the places that was supposed to be a safe haven is the church.
but that's not what the Bible
So,
says.
is it not
In
the
the
house of
last
prayer?
day, in the last day, men will become lovers of themselves. The Bible talks about in the last day that there will be a great falling away. That's it talks about the church. That ain't the world.
Yeah, it's a great falling away as far as the church is concerned, but that did not necessarily mean that you are going to have pastors preying on people.
What did you think that meant? What did you think that meant? Evil is evil. Sellouts are sellouts. False prophets are false prophets. We are literally 1 or 2 years away from one world religion and don't even know it. That's exactly what it meant. Preying on the people. Why? Because we have left our first love. We have not gone back and done our first works over. We have not done it. And now we're looking at how crazy it looks. And we look just like the world, what we would call the world. But it there is hardly any separation. And that's why the scripture even began to talk about, but there will be a remnant. Now it's our jobs to find this remnant and point them out and get them some light. Because if we don't point out where the light is, people will die in the dark.
People been dying in the dark.
But that's why we got to
Hello,
point them to the light. Now,
hello,
now,
everyone.
now it's this is a really hard truth. But a lot of these pastors, they don't have and I'm not even talking about good preaching, just loving the people.
Hmm.
A lot of these cats can preach their behinds off, but don't love people. You got pastors who do not love women, but they love pussy. So they go and they use a woman for her vagina, but care nothing about this woman and what she is as a person, as someone who really brings life and vibrancy to the whole world. They care nothing about that. All they care, we're in that time. We're there. Now, where are those that are really just like, I just want to help the people? Where are those guys at? Where
A
you
lot.
at? And Rafa Art Life Center is one place. Again, another place I know. Mikael, Ife, right there in Brooklyn. I know for a fact. You know, but we have to push those guys to the forefront now, because if we don't, the dark is just going to get darker. The dark is just going to get darker. We have to point people to the light. We have to bring people to the light. Edgar Allan Poe said in one of his poems, rage against the dying of the light. We got to rage against the dying of the light. We have to. Because if we don't, it's gonna be a very rough going for the next few years. And there is, like I said, there's hope at the end of the tunnel, because anytime you at end game, that means that we about to start over. We about to wipe the slate clean and start over. We about to purify. And scripture talks about, and he will purify the sons of Levi. you know. And here it comes again. That purifying is a process that comes every. There's it's a cycle. You have to see it's a cycle. There's a purifying coming, and I'm not afraid of the purifying because I know for a fact that I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that I'm doing what I can as a person to lead people where they need to be. You need to be home with your families. You need to be talking with your children. You need to be discussing with your children what's happening in their schools, what's happening in their neighborhoods, what's happening at Johnny's house, what's happening over there at Lanisha's house, so you can have an understanding of what's going on. We don't even communicate with each other anymore. So we're so conditioned and programmed in so many different ways, in so many different variations. It's like you gotta wake up. And can't nobody do that for you but you now. You have to wake up. And when you wake up, go back and get somebody. And y'all two go back and get two more. And y'all four go back and get four more. We have to do that because we are in some, man, listen, when people from the World Economic Forum will tell you openly God is dead, we're just waiting for them to remove the body. Jesus is fake news. We have surpassed divinity. We are creating, God, divinity created organic things. We're creating life in inorganic things. This is stuff these cats are saying out in the open. And yes, these rich and elites send it on down the pike to the governments, and the government send it on down the pike to the people. This pedophilia thing, this thing of this disrespecting of women, this disrespect of their rights, and it's we better wake up. We better wake up. We better wake up because we are what Kanye say? He said he's gonna go DEFCON 3 or DEFCON 4. Well, we need to be on DEFCON 200 because we are in some wildly, unbelievably deviant times. When one of the cartoons, SpongeBob, they had on SpongeBob literally the address of Jeffrey Epstein's island. And nobody knew that was the address. The subliminal messages that are coming through to our children in the cartoons, in the video games. These women who are looking for ways to really supplement their lives to take care of their kids any way they can. You know, it's like what they put before them is a distorted view of sexuality. The same with men. They put before these boys who grow into men this distorted view of sexuality. And then this is what it produces. This is what it produces. Like this whole thing here, this is going to take a collective effort from more than just church folks. This is going to take a collective effort from people all over. People who ain't in church, people who ain't into any religion, just people who got enough sense to love. That's where we at now. That's where we at now. Because if we don't do nothing about it, We're gonna have a whole lot of pain getting on to the other side of being purified. There's gonna be a lot of pain, unnecessary pain, because we can stop it. But we have to make sure that we don't get so wrapped up. I posted something today, and it said that we have to make sure that we set the levels of our comfort and not allow comforts to be dictated to us from outside, from the outward. Because when they do that, then they can control us remotely. And that's all that's happening.
You know, I don't believe none of that stuff, right?
What stuff?
None of that. Number one,
Look.
so let's go back, right? Because I'm very big. I don't believe conspiracy theories. I don't.
This isn't conspiracy.
It is. Some of what you're saying is. Some of what you're saying is not. Some of what you're saying is. It's not all fact. Because at the World
Economic... tell me what I said that's not fact.
I'm going to tell you exactly what you said that's
not
fact. Yo,
my boy.
Right at the World Economic Forum, Schwab never said Jesus
I didn't
is
say
dead.
Schwab. It wasn't Schwab. It was the guy under him, the second in command.
He's not even under him. He's a professor, Professor Harari. He's a Jewish professor that does not believe in the Christian belief system because he's Jewish. They never believed Jesus was the Son of Man.
Nobody said nothing about Jesus being the Son of Man.
Yeah, so what he did do was, because this is all part of something that he said on his own in 2015, and when he was brought to the World Economic Forum to speak in 2018 and 2020, he restated some of the things that he said, but he never said that that's how the world should be ruled. Like, he never said that.
I have the video. I
don't like the fact that we start saying things that are not factual. That is not true. You can have a video, and the video is false. The video that you're speaking of is false. He didn't say it in the way in which the video has been edited.
I saw it with my own eyes.
Jamel, me and you have had this conversation, and you told me to go look this stuff up. So I go and I look it up. I told you before. One thing, listen. You tell me to look something up, I'm gonna look it up and I'm gonna research it and I'm gonna read it for myself so I can fully understand exactly what you're saying.
Not you. I'm talking about this. You know, I like my little food.
But we know, because you probably done had it delivered to the car again.
And he did.
He lucky I can't see because it's dark right now. Because I for sure would have had.
You ain't see him grab that bag and was like, "Hey, my dude, right here."
You know what? That's all right.
No, he didn't even come with the bag, Gail. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back.
Look at him going to get his food. That don't make no sense.
Right.
I don't make no sense. Jamel always want to go get some food.
He always hungry.
He be the car chronicles from the car hungry, or like how dude probably ain't come to the car because he was scared. Like, wait, he want me to go to his car and deliver his food? I ain't going to nobody car delivering no food. He ain't gonna get me. And he in New York. Listen, ain't no New York. Right. Okay, scaring the poor delivery person at dark in the nighttime. But I ain't going back and forth with Jamel with this whole conspiracy theory stuff because I don't believe it. And you know I'm not gonna go back. You know I'm not. I know I don't have to believe it. I'm not going back and forth with you. Send me the video, and I'm gonna show you how that video is false.
It's not. It can't be false if the man is saying it out of his mouth.
Wait, how did
I don't even see that.
Because he went on a whole tangent and then he went into that. That's how because that wasn't even, we were talking about the predators in the church and all this other stuff. And he went on to talk about how the whole world is corrupt, which is going to then trickle down into the church. And then he brought up the World Economic Forum,
part of the system,
and all that other extra stuff. And it is part of the system. But my point is that at the end of the day, the original foundation of the church was not to be part of some type of a world system. And the fact that these things that are happening in the church is actually happening and it continues to happen. So I don't mind creating a directory of all of these predators that are in the church, every single last one of them. I don't have an area we're creating a directory for all of that, so that people are aware of where and what they really probably should stay away from. I'm okay with all of that. I am also okay with having a creating of a directory where people can go and where they can actually, not be preyed upon and be healed and be restored and be set free and flourish into the things of God. I'm not against any of that stuff. Jamel knows how I feel about some other things in which he just spoke about, which I just said. No. Now, y'all, and some of y'all in the comments, I see what y'all writing. This one world order. I don't believe none of that either, and I'm sorry, I don't believe none of that. At the end of
they
we're not.
said
We
it
can't. We
openly.
can't.
They
Jamal,
say
I
it
saw what was
every
on the
day.
news. What I'm
New
saying is,
World Order.
sweet baby,
It said
we've
it
been hearing about New World
outlets.
Order since 1975, and we ain't had
Yeah.
New World Order yet.
Yo, we are in a New World Order right now. They're about to cancel all our money, and we're going to be digitized into the system, running on social credit system. What do you?
No, we are not.
Okay. Well,
Yes, we
can
are.
we
They've
wait?
already done it in New York.
Well, can we? Let's go back to predators in the church. We hear you. We don't always all have to agree.
No,
Jamel, no, they don't care.
I know he don't care. That's why he our brother. And we still family.
And we're going to disagree
yes, we
openly
are. Yes,
and
we
not
are.
care.
We still family. But one of the things, it's different when you're talking about the institution of church versus the body of Christ or the kingdom of God, right? Church was never meant to be in a building, right? We were to be out with the people. I think so. If we want to find some type of solace, some people that we are looking for to heal, or to bring restoration or whatever you want to say, you may have to, these things may have to be searched for outside of the institution of church. Because just because I'm not in the building does not mean that I'm not a part of the church. I hope that made sense. That's my 2 cents of the night.
You don't got 2 more?
I may as the conversation goes on.
Oh, okay. I just, dropped her 2 cents and was like, and I'm out.
But I dropped that 2 cents because I think that really needs to be said when we look at the church. The other issue is that the church is not growing in its mentality and shifting in its mentality as the world shifts. And so we are left back in 1950s, 1940s with theories and how we think and how we address people and things like that. We're not having real conversations around sex. We're not having real conversations around, whatever the issue is, whatever the hot button issue is. We're not in our churches discussing that.
I agree.
So when you're talking about predators being in the church, right? The reason why they probably are not having, or some are not having this conversation, because then they'll start to expose themselves. When we was much younger, we was taught stranger danger. Stranger danger, stranger danger. We were never taught that. I think the percentage is 80% of the people that are molested or sexually assaulted is done by someone they know. And that includes people in the church.
Most definitely.
We focus more on whether or not you're praying enough, whether or not you're fasting enough, whether or not you're reading your word enough, but we are not talking about social issues. Yeah, I live in the world. The things that go on in the world is going to have some type of impact and effect on me. Um, and if the church is the only place that I'm getting my information from, and you're not talking about social injustices and social situations, how do you expect people to be able to function and know how to respond to those things? We got to start having conversations in the church.
100% agree. But I know I can't speak for every church, but in the church I grew up in, we had those conversations. The parents were told over the pulpit, don't let your children go to the bathroom by themselves. You go with your children. If you can't go with your children, you pair up with someone that's older than you and you go to that bathroom like your brother or your sister. If not, you get one of the ushers to tell me, like this was Bishop Brown at the time, you get one of the ushers to tell me, and I'll make sure that somebody will make sure that you're safe. You know, I know it's such a the church's fear of talking about sex and having grown conversations is just annoying. It's so annoying. Right? At some point, we have to treat people like adults and not children, because these children have grown up into adults who know nothing about sex, nothing about the warning signs of sexual predators, nothing about how to court, nothing about how to deal sexually. And they learn what they learn outside of the church, outside of the four walls. You know what I'm saying? So here we go. You know, until we lose this fear of talking about sex, like everybody in there having it. Y'all act like ain't nobody having it.
But I think that's the problem, right? Like part of the issue is that because historically the church has made sex so abnormal and such a disgusting thing to do. In my honest opinion, I feel that it then breeds a lot of these sexual predators inside of the church. Why? Because you've made something so taboo, as if it's something that no one should enjoy and it's something that needs to always be in secret. So now you have an influx of predators in the church. Universal church. I'm not just talking about the black church, because we all know and understand that. I mean, how the Catholic Church has been riddled with sexual scandals since for God knows how long now, right? So it's universal. When I talk about the church, I'm talking about universal church. I'm not just talking about the black church. And part of that is because of a lot of the language that was put into the Bible to make it seem like sex was something that you just should not enjoy unless you're married. And even then, they came up with a whole bunch of rules for married people to have sex. If you're married, you shouldn't do oral sex. No man should put his mouth on a woman. No woman should put her mouth on a man. The only type of sex you should have is just for you to procreate. Sex should not be something that you view as something that is pleasurable. Then people started saying, well, the marriage bed is undefiled, so I could do whatever I want in my marriage bed. And then you had a whole nother breed of a whole bunch of other stuff that, I mean, this crap been going on since the days of the Bible. This ain't nothing new as far as sex is concerned.
Right.
This is nothing new.
I think the other piece to that is also the way we teach people how to speak up and speak out about things that are not right, just period. Like, you can't talk against this person, and you better not put your mouth on this person. And so it keeps the people quiet who have suffered this injustice of being molested or sexual assaulted or whatever the case may be, because now we have put a narrative in the church of not being able to speak against the leadership.
You know,
I don't stand for none of that either.
You know, I think it even goes a little bit further than that. If we think about how as children We tell children, don't say that, and they're only speaking the truth. One of my favorite kids to watch on the internet are these two little girls. One name is Paris, the other name is London. And London is the more soft spoken. She's the girl that won't fight for herself. Cute little girl. But Paris, her sister, like, yo, who did it? I'm
Oh, on
about to knock him
TikTok.
out. Yep. So, and what I hear is what happens in most places. No, Paris, you're not supposed to say that. No, Paris, don't do that. No, Paris, don't. And we teach our kids how to cover up, how to be dishonest, and not. I'm like, yo, if my daughter, I remember one time my daughter, when she was young, she was 5. She said, "Ooh, you stink," and she said that not to me, but to somebody else. And her mother was like, "Stop, don't say that." I said, "No, if he stink, he stink." We don't want to stop her from telling the truth. We want to get him to take a bath. So she has to sit here and smell him all day while I'm on the organ? Nah, nigga, go take a bath. Wash your underarms. You stink.
Kids are so brutally honest, but London for sure told Paris who it was, and Paris definitely went and got
Stormy.
home.
It was Stormy, and she bought the storm to Stormy.
That's what Paris said. Paris said, and I bought the storm. Okay, so I'm all team Paris up in here, because bring something to me and I'm bringing the fire. I don't care. That's just that. That's how that goes with me. I've always been this way. I've been this way since I was a child. Okay. And I'm all for it, because I think that one of the most, like you said, one of the most detrimental things that we were taught is keep it in the house. What goes on in this house stays in this house. Let me not go there, because you know, but every time I go there, I get angry. Every time I think about what that nigga said to me.
I feel the heat coming off the phone.
Right.
Cause that's what he said to me. You know, what goes on in this house stays in this house. Fuck you. You know what? I said I wasn't cussing today, and here y'all go. Y'all done got me to cuss. I wasn't even cussing today. So I was gonna dial it all back. I was gonna dial it all back. You don't expose what goes on in this house. I said you shouldn't be outside acting like the way you acting. You don't want it exposed, don't do it. Cause you do something to me, it's a wrap. Sure was. Okay. And I don't care. Why? Because things, I mean, and granted, half y'all wayward anyway, so y'all still support, because I see y'all all the time. y'all are like, Jamal said it earlier, and it literally behooves me. I do not understand. It's like the messiest of messy people. Y'all go flock right to them and go to their lives just so you can receive a word and send your money. I don't understand that level of honestly, you're just toxic. You like toxic things, because I'm not giving my money to nobody that is out of order. What? And you know, and out of order preachers always love using that. Would you put your money in a what the hell they say? Would you put your money in a broke vending machine? Well, why do y'all keep putting y'all money in these broke people? Y'all know they broke. Y'all know they ain't right. Y'all know they ain't living right. Y'all know this stuff, and you continue. Just let me say that. And just because you receive one little right word, that just excuses everything. Shoot, Fatty used to say all the time, a broke clock is right twice a day. Is it not?
Listen, I'm a firm believer.
And sometimes God honors the person, not the person that's giving the word, but the person that's on the end to receive the word. And sometimes that's why you get the right word.
Well, when he said he saw that blank check, okay, when we was over there at Bishop Devin Owens Church, and he spelled out my name, okay, N-I-K-I. I see a name. Y-A-M. And I said, who the hell is this dude spelling out my name? What in the crap is going on here? I see a check. God, I'm gonna need you to honor that word. Let me go play the Mega Millions.
Listen, most of these prophecies that come forth ain't nothing that a work ethic can't get you.
I mean,
prophesying cars, prophesying houses, get a job, get off your butt, go to work. Get your credit good, you can get a house, you can get a
Yeah,
car.
because
Those
God
aren't
said he was going
prophecies
to
to
do
me.
it.
Yeah, those ain't prophecies to me.
Told me that
And
check was going to my old address on James Street. That shit still ain't coming. I didn't even understand why the Lord would send it there.
people are so people don't want to do the work,
Man, listen.
and they expect God to be Santa Claus.
Yep. I
And
say it
to
all the time. They think he a genie in a bottle, and you can rub his belly 3 times and ask him for 3 wishes, and he's gonna grant them. And that's not how it works.
That's
right?
how they're taught.
That is how they're taught.
Yeah, but come on.
It
After
is.
a while, you need to wake up.
I mean, and
After
I agree. I agree with the wake up.
after you've been doing this for 5, 10, 12, 20 years, it ain't been working in this long. So why are you still doing it? Do something else, dummy.
I will. I will. I will not forget. Just recently, because I'm still a part of the church and I still go to church, and yes, I still challenge the church, all at the same time. You can do both.
I agree.
Um, I was in the service, and this happened twice recently. Um, and somebody came and started prophesying to me and was like, "Get up, walk around the church. God's going to heal you."
Yeah, yeah.
Um, for the people who don't know, I am physically disabled. Um, Mobily, I do not have full um, access to work with my legs. Um, and so I'm walking with my cane, and they're like, "Oh, he's going to uh, make sure that you don't have to walk with your cane and all of this." And I'm like, I'm walking with this person, and I'm like, God, I know this is not you. I know without a shadow of a doubt. Now, I don't doubt that God can heal my body,
Mm-hmm.
but I also know that God does stuff in his timing, and God can choose to heal me now or heal me on the other side of glory. And so that was the first time it happened in recently. The second time, I'm sitting there, I'm minding my business, and one of the pastors was like prophesying again. Oh, he gonna make sure that you gonna walk straight. You're not gonna need your cane. You're not gonna. Now I've been dealing with this, what, 7 years now? We're on the 7th year. Um, but you gotta believe and you gotta have faith. And I was like, once again, this is not God. Um, because the God that I know, he knows the whole situation. And so I say all of that to say this, that some people prophesy to you out of their own perception of what they want God to do for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I just said this the other day. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people prophesy out of what they deem and feel as though is best for you, not what is actually best for you. And not to say healing is not best for me, but because you only know a portion of the situation and you take that scripture and by his stripes we are healed. And I think some people think that we are supposed to be immortal beings. The body is going to break down. There's going to be wear and tear on the body. There's going to be things that happen. We are not immortal. There's a time, there is a time that things are going to happen. And so when we live under the perception or under the theory that every time I get sick, God gonna heal my body, every time I run into some type of something, automatically he just gonna give me a reprieve. Um, that's not how he works.
You know,
And so we need to stop that.
I'm big on this when it comes to stuff like that. Because I believe I don't need nobody to tell me when God's gonna do it, how he's gonna do it. One thing I know is I've had 2 bouts with death in the past 3 years. In 2020, I almost died from the effects of COVID when it first came out because I had it much longer than most, but didn't know I had it. So it almost took me out of here, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then this year, in August, I was walking around with my blood sugar at 827. Didn't
Wow.
even know I had diabetes. And the doctor was like, I don't even know how you still alive. But I knew that I was fighting for my life because I had called my brother and I was like, yo, I don't know what it is, but I feel like something's trying to snatch me out of here. I feel it. I see it. He
Mm-hmm.
was like, well, do you want to go? I like, no, I don't. I ain't ready to go. I got plenty I want to do. He was like, yo, then, manifest your healing. And I'm big on that. So what I did when my boy called me and he was like, yo, come to the crib. Went over to his crib. He's like, yo, do this finger stick for me. Did a finger stick, went to the hospital, and then, 827, all that stuff. They kept me. But as soon as I got out that hospital, my mind was not on having diabetes. My mind was on reversing diabetes. So my
Mm-hmm.
A1C numbers went from 14 down to 7.2 as of yesterday. If I
Oh,
can
good.
I lost 30 pounds, I believe healing is a thing that we all have the ability to do. We just have to learn the process of it. We have to learn what things to eat. There are certain foods that promote healing in the body. There's certain things. What should we stay away from? Not just foods, but even things that we drink and things that we all this radiation that's in our neighborhoods from cell towers and just even living in certain areas. We just have to find ways to promote healing. And even in
Mm-hmm.
this situation, when we're talking about the church has lost its ability to find ways that promote healing.
Mm-hmm.
Too scared to talk, too scared to. I'm like, yo, she done had 8 kids, and y'all still talking about standing. Man, don't you get up there and stand up there no more. Sit your butt down. You don't see no more. What you going up there and stand up there for the people? You got 8 kids. And the dude, go get a job. If you had a job, you probably wouldn't have 8 kids. It's
Mm-hmm.
like at some point we have to talk about this stuff, really bring it to the forefront, and don't be afraid, yo. But we so afraid of what traditional church folk is going to say and how they're going to receive it, and I could care less. Are the people here in the neighborhood being helped? Are the
Right.
people in the surrounding communities being helped? You can always tell how effective a church is by the neighborhood that they're in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, again, how in this day and time, how are we not talking about how to spot sexual deviance? In this day and time, how are we not talking about things that actually heal the body and not just praying for healing and prophesying to healing? Okay, after you give me the prophecy, do you have any directions that can lead me on the path of healing?
Right. Practical tools
Exactly.
that
Exactly.
that don't just consist of praying, fasting, and reading
Yep.
the Bible.
Right. Right.
What are your practical tools? Because I can pray all day long for people to not want to exert their power and control because that's what um, sexual assaults are about, someone
Mm-hmm.
wanting to exert their power and control.
Mm-hmm.
I can pray about that all the time, right? But if I don't have the tools, the knowledge or information to spot it, then me just praying about it is not enough. He said, my people perish, since y'all was talking Bible. That's this because y'all was talking Bible. My
Come on,
people
come on, come on.
perish for the lack of knowledge. He
Right,
didn't say lack of knowledge in the Bible. He said
right.
lack of knowledge. And so if you don't go out there and grab the knowledge that is needed, we will continue to be ignorant of the enemy, as the church like to call it, the enemy's devices.
I'm 100% in agreement. You know,
And so when are we going to start educating ourselves and using more than the Bible to educate ourselves?
we got to get rid of that fear. People are too afraid to do it because they've been taught a fear-based theology for so many years.
Mm-hmm.
So now
Agreed.
they're locked up in fear, locked up in a system of fear. When and it's about time for again, for some reason, I don't know what happened in the past few months, but all of a sudden, oh, we got to preach about sin. For what? Everybody know what sin is. Everybody knows how to sin. In fact, shoot, most don't know what sin is. And most pastors don't know what sin is. They preach sin like it's transgression, and two totally different things. So
Mm-hmm.
you preach sin as transgression, but you never preach the healing part. You never preach the part about the person being restored. He that is spiritual will restore such a one that is overtaken in a fault. Where's the spiritual? None of these cats are spiritual. They just good. They're good preachers, but irrelevant preachers. They have wonderful sermons, but irrelevant sermons. These sermons don't help nobody. They're just. It's almost like being a wonderful pianist, but you can never connect with your audience.
Mm-hmm.
What good are you? What, like, not saying what good are you, but you feel a way because musically you want to connect with someone else. You want to hear more than, oh, that's pretty. You want to see the emotional responses. You want to see the cathartic moments. You want to see those things. And the same can be said in preaching. When I'm preaching, I want to be able to see that somewhere I have triggered some type of a response. And not just in your emotions, but in your actions. You're doing things differently. Now you're walking a little bit more. When the doctors told you that we don't think you'll be able to walk in a few years, you increase your regimen on walking. Or when the doctors tell you, oh well, we don't see you getting over your high blood pressure, but you change your diet. Let's see these things happen. After, if I'm giving a message, I want my message. I want to see the actions in your life. That's how I know if you're really listening to me. If you're really listening to the time that I put into study. And not just that, but also make sure that I'm doing what I need to do. So when I preach, you don't look at me and say, it's a good word for you, but you ain't doing it yourself. No, I want people to look at me like, yo, he preaching it to us, but he did it first. He did it
Mm-hmm.
first. He said, get lose a little weight. He lost weight. He said, go and make yourself look good. He started dressing better. He said, go out and be kinder to people. He's out here greeting everybody and loving on everybody. Like, yo, a lot of the things that we go through can be handled with such simple things. But you have a whole lot of prophets with prophecy, but no instruction. What good are you? If your prophecy doesn't include instruction, what you're not a prophet. You're a talker. You're a fast talker. You're a
But
swindler.
that's because in many churches, I'm not going to say all churches, they lack training. They lack they lack adequate education, right? Okay, let's take me for instance, because I
Mm-hmm.
can only use myself.
Mm-hmm.
What makes me a great case manager is because before I was a case manager, I was under a lot of the programs that I'm referring my clients to.
Mm-hmm.
What makes me a great case manager is because I school and I didn't just gain the lived experience knowledge, I also gained the book knowledge to be
Right.
able to apply it. What
Right.
makes me a good case manager is I know how to read a room.
Right. Right.
So when you have skills, resources, and tools that you have developed, which what makes me a good case manager is because I show up to therapy every week.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
cannot give these things to clients if I am not actively practicing these things myself.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely.
And
Most definitely.
so because I actively practice these things, I am actively setting myself up for success. It also allows me to be successful with my clients. Now,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I will break through to everyone, but I'm going to try, right? A lot of times, the lack of education, the lack of tools, the lack of skill, and the lack of them having resources, access to these resources means that they are not doing the active work that we're talking about. They're not healing, they're not doing any of these things. So they are passing down what we talk about so much, and I'm still on sexual assault and things. They're passing that on. Just we keep on passing that on. That's intergenerational trauma that we're
Mm-hmm.
passing on. It ain't a generational curse. It's because people didn't do their work. And I understand the generations before us did not have access to be able to do it. But you got access to it now. What's
Mm-hmm.
your excuse?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What's your excuse for not going out here and getting the information and the education for your parishioners, your lay members, the people who you say God has given you charge over?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But you, Gail, I agree. Again, I'm in total agreement with you. But also, I think we're at a time now where whether your pastor does it or not, you have to have something in you that drives you to want to know more. If you say you are in a relationship with God, then guess what? What are you doing to further your relationship with God? What are you doing? Hey, you may not know what to do or where to look, but we have too, like you said, we have too many things, too many tools at our disposal. You go on YouTube, you look until it's like trying on clothes. Some people aren't fashion forward, but they keep trying on stuff until they find a style that kind of fits them. Until they can find someone who's knowledgeable enough and also has some type of influence in their life to say, I see what you're trying to do. Maybe if you did it this way, it will work better. Look. And it's the same way in the church. You know, Bible says that we should be studying to show ourselves approved. Yeah, I hear what you're saying on Sunday, Pastor. But what I'm going to take what you said on Sunday, and I'm going to go home and I'm going to grab me some dictionaries and I'm going to look up these words that I may not know and have an understanding of so I can gain an understanding of it and understand better what you're saying because I want my walk to be that much deeper, you know? And I'm like, yo, if you dating somebody, you just don't, y'all just ain't talking about nothing, hopefully. Hopefully, you're looking for a deeper relationship, a deeper connection. And it's the same thing. We have to look for that deeper connection with God in us. It's wonderful to hear what Peter and Paul and John and all of them said, but what is that relationship that I have with God? I want to know if I am an epistle read of men, and I'm writing my epistle now. what am I doing? What? How is me and God relationship? The old mothers used to say it like this. Back when I was I had to be probably 3 or 4, and growing up in before Pilgrim, this was New Jerusalem Holiness Church, and the mothers would say, how's your walk? How's you and God doing today? What how's your walk with God today? And you have to ask yourself those questions. How was your walk with God today? Have you given him any time? Have you spoken to him? Have you had any introspection? Have you had anything that you put him to the test on? Like, what are we doing? And until we have that, you know, it all goes back to this. Until we take the time and the responsibility to be more aware of our surroundings and more aware of God in us. When I walk, if I wasn't in church, because I like to fight, because at least I used to like to fight. Now I'm old, I don't like to fight as much. But when I was younger, I used to love a fight. And my instincts were always on 100. I could tell when danger was around. I could tell when something was off. I could sniff out when a setup was happening. Like, we have to, at some point, even when you haven't been taught, instinctually, God put something in us instinctually that leads us to him. It's going to lead us back. It's going to lead you back. Just follow that inner voice of God in you. Hear what he's saying. Take a little time to talk with him. Even
But
when
Jamel, if we stick on topic, which is the topic about predators,
yeah,
once you have been violated in that manner, it is hard to trust who you are.
there's no question.
Right. So what you're saying is good, but we're talking about church. No, come on,
Even
bro.
even predators. Hear what I'm saying. Even when you have even victims, I should say, even victims. Even though it may be hard to trust yourself, it's easier to trust yourself than it is others that that, like, if this happened to me here and y'all know this stuff goes down here, I know I can't trust none of y'all in here. I might have questions about me, but I ain't got no questions about y'all.
No, you question
Survival
everything. No,
and
Janelle. I can't let you say that, bro.
I'm just telling you. I'm just telling
Bro,
you what I
you're
know.
speaking to someone, bro.
I
You're
hear.
speaking to,
Listen,
bro.
I
No,
know your
I can't
background.
let you.
I know your
But I can't let
background.
you. That's damaging. That's damaging.
All I
And I
know is
can't
this.
let you say that.
All I know is this. At some point, your survival skills kick in. All that psychology stuff we can kick it, and I don't mind kicking it because we always do. But at some point, there is something in you that wants to survive. That survival instinct will kick in, and it will do its necessary to get you to where you need to be. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be a perfect situation, but there is an instinct in you that wants to survive. Even though we have been epigenetically programmed from all the traumas of our forefathers all the way
But
down.
for some people, it's not something that's in you that wants to survive. Because for me, listen.
I'm listening. I'm listening to you.
For many survivors, some of them wanted to lay down and die. Let's just be honest. Let's be honest and tell the truth. And so what Kia was saying earlier today, if the church is supposed to be a place of safety and refuge, right? And it's not that, for people, we have a problem because it's not that. It's not the place of safety and refuge where I go and I will be violated in a manner where it makes me hate myself. And so I understand what you're saying, but what you're saying actually can't be applied to this situation because of the toll that sexual assaults take on the person. It's a violation of their entire body.
You know, again, I can't say that goes that I can't make that as a blanket statement. At 11 years old, my virginity was taken by a 24-year-old woman at 11. And it happened to quite a few times at
Mm-hmm.
11. You know what I'm saying? My family, most of my family don't even know that. I know it. And what, for some people, yes, they do want to die. They do want to lay down and just call it quits because they really don't know how to deal. They don't know how to make sense of what's happening. And then it just becomes so overwhelming. Yes, some people do want to do that. But then there's some people who's like, yo, I gotta get out of this. I got some way, somehow. I gotta get out of this. I can't let my life be this. So for me, I
Mm-hmm.
can't let that be the blanket statement. And I believe that it's something that it is from person to person. It is person to person based.
I will agree with that.
Yeah.
I will agree with that. I will agree with that. The response is an individual response, and everyone doesn't want to lay down and die. However, I would then go on to say is that sometimes they may not want to lay down and die, but they may want to inflict. It's a wide
Yeah.
range.
Yes. Yes.
It's on a
It's a spectrum.
spectrum
Definitely. It's a
of
spectrum.
how they respond.
Yeah.
But there's a process, and so when we're talking about predators, because the topic of discussion is predators in the church, right?
Mm-hmm.
We need to put some safeguards in place as the church. We need to start screening people. When I got my job working with children, there's a whole bunch of clearances I have to go through before they say, oh, yeah, you can work with children.
I agree 100%.
And so we have to start putting some things in place, some safeguards in place to protect the people that we say we love as leaders.
I don't disagree with you. And from the beginning of the show, I've definitely said, that there has to be, like, one of my ideas was, there has to be a database that points out that the scripture says, mark them. This database here shows who you should be beware of. But then, as we do that as well, we should also have another side of that database that points people to places where they know for sure you can be safe here. You can find help here.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want the system to be more balanced. You know what I'm saying? Because if we're always just talking about the violation and the victimization and never bringing people to a place of rescue, or bringing people to a place of awareness that there is more to life than being victimized and violated, bringing them to a place where they can say, you know what, yeah, you pointed out who to avoid, but not only did you point out who to avoid, but you pointed out who I should be a part, who I should link up with, and it helped me a lot. Because even in the streets, you know what I'm saying? So, they go into the streets and, yeah, we handled the drug problem in this neighborhood. Okay, now you handled the drug problem, you locked up all the cats who was dealing all the drugs, but now you have a poverty problem because now the people these guys who were feeding their families off of the drugs they were selling, it's like we have to bring both sides of the argument. Yes, mark those that are out here being deviant. Mark those that are out here being disgusting and vile human beings, but also I have to point you to places, and this is where I think we all have to take more time. We have to look. We have to look for places that we can say, you know what, I can send you here, and you'll be all right over there. You'll be safe there. You can
So,
go here.
right, agreed. And what I'll say to that is that those places may no longer be in the church.
I agree.
And
I,
we as a body need to accept that those places may no longer be in the church.
See, my only thing is, like I said in the beginning, is that everything is being touched by this corruption. You know what I'm saying? Like I work in the past, since this COVID thing. I've pulled back a lot because at first I wasn't able to walk like I wanted to. I couldn't walk, and then when I could walk, I couldn't walk for long. But before this whole COVID thing started, I was big in championing uh, against human trafficking, child sex trafficking. And I would be out there. I was there doing the protests. I was there speaking to the media. I was there doing those things. And one thing I know is it this this thing, this deviance is spreading, and it's spreading into every sector. You
Yeah.
go to you go to the hospital, and the woman wakes up to find a doctor in there doing nasty stuff to her. You go to the classrooms. The teachers are over here playing with the kids. You go you you got politicians rubbing and sniffing kids' hair and getting all close up on their bodies. Like it's everywhere. It's
Right.
everywhere.
However, it's always been everywhere.
It has.
It being
Yes, it has. Yes, it has.
it always have been everywhere. But we're talking about a place that was supposed to be deemed as the safe house, right?
If
And I understand you're saying all these other places are corrupt. But we want to stay on the topic of discussion, which is the church,
uh,
and it
I'm with you.
having
I'm with you.
predators in there, right? And us not doing our due diligence of making
Again,
sure that that is taken care of.
but
Um,
we've spoken to that already. We've spoken
right.
that 3 times, 4 times. And now the question is, now that we know that the church has this deficiency, we have to move past talking about the deficiency and talk about
How?
remedy.
When the deficiency keeps getting highlighted because every other month
If
there's another scandal going on because somebody
so,
has violated another person. So
so
we
you
can't
talk
talk
about the
about the
deficiency. That's not what I said.
violation.
That's not what I said. I made sure to say that we have to balance it. Once you talk about the deficiency, once you talk about the violation, we have to be just as eager, just as strong in our presentation to present people with options. We have to do that, because if we don't, then we just leave people in that.
No, we lead people into a place of healing so that they understand that what they just experienced is not the norm. What they just experienced is not acceptable. What they just experienced was traumatic enough, and that they need to understand that that is not how God operates. That is not a person in whom God is actually utilizing to even bring any type of remote healing to a person. Because sometimes what happens is when you've been victimized like that, you begin to question God and his ability. How are you calling or choosing or using someone like this in your name Because everything they do, he said, my spirit said, this said, all this other extra crap that's going on. So no, we have to bring people to a level of understanding so that they understand that that is not the norm. Then once you do that, then you could potentially, let me tell you something. When all that crap went down with me and everybody kept telling me you need to go to church, that was the furthest thing I wanted to hear from my mind. I'm not walking into your building. I don't want you to touch me. I don't want you to
Why would somebody
prophesy
tell
to
you to
me.
go to a church if they know that the violation took place in a church?
That's my
and that's why I'm telling
point.
us
My point is like I'm not leading someone to another
but I'm not
place,
telling
and
you about
they have to
churches.
be healed first.
I'm not telling you about churches.
You just said
And I
you
said,
need
no,
to.
I said earlier, I made sure to say it. I said that it's bigger than church. I made sure to say that. And then Gail came back and Gail made sure to say that we have to, sometimes church will not be the place that we can send them. And I said, Gail, I 100% agree with you.
I've
So,
said that from the beginning. I said I'm not
and
sending
I'm
nobody to the
agreeing
church
again.
if they've
And
already
I'm
been
agreeing
violated
again.
inside the church. People got to heal.
I'm agreeing again. And what I'm saying is, and that, all I'm saying, I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying. What I'm saying is that there has to be the same level of intensity to the exposure as to the presentation of outsourcing them to places they can go where they'll be all right.
But
There
there
has
has
to
agree.
be.
and there has been. However,
There's been the same intensity. There has. Where?
yeah,
Where?
there has been more conversations about places that people can go and
I,
receive healing, or start to talk about what's going on. However, right, it's hard for you to then trust anyone. So there's been conversations, big conversations going on, especially now, about how to go about go speak to a therapist, go get you a life coach, connect with people, go to a support group, those types of things, right? However, we've been so programmed from church that those things are not good things,
I,
right?
maybe in the 90s, maybe even the early 2000s, but not in the past 10 years. No. The church has been big on I have heard many preachers say, listen, sometimes you need an altar, but sometimes you need a couch.
That has just become the
That's why I said the
narrative.
last 10 years. I just said that.
Not even in the last 10
No,
years.
I'm definitely sure it's the last 10 years. I'm definitely
Okay.
sure because COVID has been almost 3 years now.
Right. And
So
prior
I'm
to
sure.
COVID, I can say that the people that I was around, let me
Okay.
say that, and I've been around quite a few pastors, bishops, um, all of those types of people. The conversation was this: they really didn't believe in going to therapy, life coaching, all of that type of stuff. But if you're going to do it, make sure they're a Christian counselor,
I can't stand that. And
or make sure
I
you're
hate that.
going to your pastor for counseling. So now you want to refer me back to the same person that committed the crime,
I,
because that most of the time when they was talking about counseling, they was talking about receiving counseling from the pastor, not going to a professional to get
that
those services.
in my arena, um, I've seen pastors direct them to doctors because in the church
Mhm.
there were doctors in the church. You know what I'm saying? And these have been big and small churches. I played for a lot of churches here in New York. You know, um, and at least in every church I play for, there's one doctor or one medical person in that church that has a certain level of clearance or a certain level of knowledge that will direct them to no, here you can go to this person. This you can hear this from here's a therapist or here's a psychiatrist, and that's it because that's just it's mental illness isn't as in the dark as it was, and this really start like I said we're 10 years in that I know for sure here in New York because you expect when Zachary Timms took his life, I think that's when it really took a turn because people started realizing you could be a big old preacher, have a big old platform, big old church, making good money, and still kill yourself. And then there was a time, and in that space, there were mad preachers killing themselves, mad preachers deleting themselves, and so it took the turn because it was so public. It was so public, and so many preachers were killing themselves that people were like, all right, all right, you have to have a couch. You need a couch. It just can't be the altar. It has to be the couch too, because you going to the preacher, you put more on the preacher. He already wore thin with the little 50 people he got, 75 people he got, and that's when it took that turn when Zachary Timms and it was just like a whole line of preachers that were just dying by self deletion. And it was just like, wow, this is crazy. And
Mm-hmm.
then yeah, that's when you started seeing more. Come on, we believe in therapy. Come on, yeah, we're understanding now that therapy is a must. It is a need. And if we don't have a therapist here in the church, we do have phone numbers we can give you. We do have doctors we can suggest. Even if we don't have a doctor that we can suggest, we can send you to a place in the community that can bring you to a doctor that because we especially when you're dealing with people who suffer with certain types of mental illnesses. You know what I'm saying? Split personality disorder or schizophrenia or ain't no past. I see some of these dummies up here. The devil, trying to come out now and pouring oil on it. Like, brother, you can't pour oil on that because you're not dealing with a demon. You're not dealing with a demon. You're dealing with a disorder. And now
Mm-hmm.
and I believe that pastors are really awakening to the fact that there is a difference between a demon and a disorder. Now the question is, can you differentiate between the demon and the disorder? Can you differentiate? Do you have the discernment enough to know when it's a demon or when it's a disorder?
Nope.
And most of them don't. So yeah, now if they don't want to get a lawsuit, you better send them to a doctor. I'll sue this whole church. This will be Jamel Baptist Memorial Muslim Kings Rabbis Temple.
All that.
All that.
He included every part of the Christian faith in this church.
All the
That means
Abrahamic religions.
right. Everyone is welcome. It is
Yeah.
all inclusive. Um,
And a lot of
but
these
yeah,
pastors don't want no lawsuits.
I'll say some of them don't, but some of them are still preaching that same old gospel.
Yeah,
But
some are, unfortunately.
like we said, there is places to go. There is resources out here that people can reach out to, that can get you, or at least put you on the journey to heal. And let's say this, that journey is not always easy and it doesn't always look great. And it's going to hurt sometimes. But when you come out on the other end of that, you'll be thankful in some aspects. I'm not saying in every aspect, but in some aspects, you'll be thankful that you did it.
Yeah, most definitely. I agree. You know, just we really have to be diligent in our recognition of those that are out here doing the work, those that are really out here pointing you to a place where you can heal and you can be rescued and you can actually put your life back together again. You know, and we have to be just as diligent. And again, I thank God that Kia brought this story up, because if she didn't bring this story up, we couldn't have this conversation. None of this would even be talked about. You know what I'm saying? And Kia's platform can reach another platform, which can reach another platform, which can reach another platform. And it's like, yo, rage against the dying of the light, y'all.
Yeah, and for us that's still in the churches and who have voice and influence, we need to be having these conversations, not just on these social media platforms, but within our churches.
Yeah.
We can't be afraid to have this conversation, because we want to put an end to having to have this conversation about predators in the church.
Yeah. 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 And I'm like,
So
yo.
just like we take the charge with the Great Commission, let's take the charge to start having real conversations about things like this that affects not just the person who was assaulted, but affects everyone, because there is a great impact on everyone. And let's start having a conversation. Let's stop being scared about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I agree. All right, and with that, we about to be out because we've been on here for almost 2 hours, and I'm stopping this at the 2 hour mark. I sure am. At the 2 hour mark, I am stopping it. And I echo everything that. Let me not say everything, because some of the stuff, Jamel, we already said we don't agree, and that's okay. What I will say is we already said it. What I will say is this. One of the things that I like to do, especially on this platform, since it's called the Muzzles Off Podcast, we're gonna unmuzzle everything that I see. If I don't see it, I can't talk about it. But if I see it, I'm definitely going to talk about it. And this happened to be something that I was actually tagged in on Facebook in order to talk about it. And my whole thing is, if I'm going to talk about something, then I'm going to talk about it in its totality of what I actually read and what I actually understood. And as one whom has experienced a certain level of trauma in the church, I think that it's imperative that we continue to have these conversations, because people have to understand that they're not alone, and they also have to understand that they have people in their corner that are actually rooting for them. And I hope that this young woman, that her sister understands that this was not normal. This is not something that should have happened. But due to the fact that her sister exposed it, it is now come to light that this man has a history of doing these things. And when people have a history of doing things, we can't shy away from exposing that history. So, as Jamel just said, Markham. So trust and believe this will not be the last time that I actually speak on this, because from what I've just seen on the good social media, he has deactivated his page, rightfully so. And if I can do more, I'm going to do more, because I believe that we do need to mark them, and they do need to be exposed for exactly the charlatans and the wolves that they really are. So with that being said, y'all, tune in next time to the Muzzles Off Podcast. I promise I'll be on time next time. Good night.
Buenos noches.